Do 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 da do da do 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 do. Hello, Gums Twins. I think that's right. Hmm. I'm on. I'm trying to watch the chat over here because I can't see it on this thing. Hello, hello, hello. Hello from Georgia. Hello, y'all. Yep, yep, yep. Well, I was gonna try and watch this over here, but my computer over here seems to be locking up, which is where I was going to read all the chit chat. I'm going to get down here low. Hey, are you? Uh, Maiden's going good. Hello from Virginia. Glasses, yeah, I need glasses. You know, I kind of move when the Lord moves on me, and sometimes I don't think about bringing my dang glasses. Report what's tomorrow, my chief. Okay. Howdy. Roscoe Show, the Dick and Roscoe Show. Yes, yes, yes. So here's the deal. Uh, just just throwing it out there. I'm with WDRN, Wicked Development Radio Network, WDRN, and Dick and Roscoe. They're part of WDRN, and Beware Mouse is part of them. And hey, uh, and let's see. Freedom TV is a part of WDRN. Uh, Falling Bomb, Falling, Falling Bomb, part of WDRN. And Chief and all, howdy toddy y'all. I I got some of the best people. Hi, I got some of the very best people in the world are my subs. And I've been told repeatedly here lately that the reason that they like me is because, hey, Gilbert, uh, that I am the voice of reasoning. I'm logical. I think about gray dude in the house. Hey, gray dude. Uh, did I try and analyze some of the things that other auditors are doing? And I try and see where they're succeeding, where they're failing. And when I say failing, it doesn't mean that they fail. They're just not doing as good as they could be. Yeah, yeah, the 14th Amendment. I may have to go back through there and look at them later. Feel free to. uh, I like to have a big picture. Some auditors, it's just the way they grew up or the way they were taught, their environment. They have either, a great psyche that is above mine or below mine or wherever. But the point is, uh, they either operate at such a high level or a low level, they're out of the quote norm, if there's such a thing as norm. And I talk to them on the phone. I email them. We text. We talk. We see each other in person. We communicate directly and indirectly. So sometimes I'll talk to another auditor who talks to three other auditors, and and he or she will send the information between them to me and me to them. Plus, I also talk directly to them. Anyway, Val, you can go look at the Geneva Conventions uh, from World War II, the Geneva Conventions, and you can look at what a war criminal is. You can go and look what a political prisoner is. You can use a lot of different people's definitions on what a war criminal is or what a political prisoner is. Now, I use uh, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, okay? Well, a lot of people patted me on the back and told me how great I was, what a great analogy that was. Then the other half of the people beat me up and told me that was a very poor example. So I went on there and tried to explain, hey, I can't make everybody happy. Okay? Hey China, uh and you can't make everybody happy. Okay? So since I can't make everybody happy and you can't make everybody happy, I think I just need to do the best that I can do where I can sleep at night and get up with a clear conscience, go to bed with a clear conscience, and say I've done the best that I could do uh, today or tonight or whatever the case may be. So I try and analyze what they're doing. And I tell them, look, police are trained that if you do these various things, this is how they're going to respond. So don't do that. That may get you tased, it may get you shot, it may get you killed, it may get you beat down behind a building. You know, uh, don't do these things. So I try and tell auditors things not to do from a police perspective because even when you get a honest cop and somebody says there ain't no honest cops, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. I believe there are a lot of honest cops. Now, a portion of them are mistrained, misled, brainwashed, disinformation. They follow the crowd. They do various things that they ought not to do that kind of gets them in trouble. Okay? So I say, even with this honest cop, and he believes he has on the white hat, and he believes that he's doing right, and believes he's good at what he's doing, and he's doing that which is right, okay? Uh, then he thinks that he's in good faith, he's doing what the law says, and they're not trained sometimes on the difference in a policy and the actual law. And then they're not trained that if the actual law is repugnant to the state or national constitution, it's null and void, and don't try and enforce it because you know or you should know that it's repugnant to the Constitution. Hey, Bill, uh, if if in this situation, if you got a man or woman, they wear the uniform, they taken the oath of office, they went to a police academy somewhere, and they got trained just like you did in your children in public schools. Well, over the years, public schools got worse and worse and worse. But the children only know what they were taught. Okay? They acted on the way they were taught. Okay? When police go to the academy, they're going to school to be police, sheriffs, deputies, marshals, whatever. They're going to a formal training that's run by the government that runs the public school system. That same government that teaches that we're a democracy instead of a republic, which is false. Go read the Constitution. Uh, go look up on Wikipedia or wherever. What kind of nation are we? It's a republic. But you'll hear everybody from your local representative on a city council all the way up to the president referring to us as a democracy repeatedly for probably the last 40 years. Before that, you hardly heard it. You would hear it sometimes, from progressive people trying to change it. A democracy means 51% controls the other 49. A republic says it has to be a consensus and a super majority, and it has to not violate the state constitution or the national constitution. So if I'm in Texas and I'm in Leon Valley, okay, for a perfect example, if they got a city ordinance and it's the chief, an officer, a deputy sheriff that comes riding through, constable, marshal, whoever, if anybody says, hey, I'm going to arrest you for the following city ordinance, well, they're supposed to know if an ordinance was passed just because the law was on their local books. If it was repugnant to the Texas Constitution or the national Constitution, it is void on its face, and they're not going to be able to call qualified immunity because they do receive training that tells them the hierarchy of law. Okay? They do learn these concepts and these principles and these ideas, but the way they teach it and the way it is administered out on the street, there's even a variance in that. So they don't teach them everything. Yeah, free bail. They don't teach them everything they need to teach them, and the things they teach them aren't always correct. And then when they get out on the street, there used to be an OSA, and your sergeant, or if you're in a little town, your chief will say, "Forget all that stuff at the academy. I'm going to tell you how it's really done out here." So they've already been mistrained and mistaught in numerous actions in police behavior. Okay? Now, you still got individual personalities and individual upbringing. So I'm going to tell you a man or woman that comes from a home that had both parents, please turn up your volume up on your end. Okay? Let me try and do that and see what happens here. Okay, so my volume's all the way up now, and I'll try and get a little louder. Maybe I was away from the speaker. So your mic volume. I don't have a specific thing that says mic volume, and it just picks up whatever I'm saying here. But I'll try and get a little closer. Anyway, just think about these teachers at the public school system. This teaching democracy versus republic. Well, these same people uh, with the same uh, mentality, this same curriculum, teach at the police academy. So you have judges, you have lawyers, and you have seasoned peace officers, as well as statutory law enforcement officers. That's a blue light come on this computer. See on my hand, blue. That's not for the thin blue line. That's for the blue light in the computer. Anyway, think about how you was taught in elementary, junior high, and high school. Okay. Now think about going to a school that's to learn to be a cop. Instead of getting a high school diploma, you're getting a cop diploma. So they have various teachers, different methods. They have a state curriculum in all of the 50 states of the United States of America, and they follow that curriculum. Okay, the way that they're trained, it might be. My phone keeps dropping down here. Yeah, might be. Uh, they teach the truth, but they don't teach the whole truth. Or they teach something that's 90% true, but 10% wrong, or even 1% wrong. Okay? So the police officer out on the street, he's already received incorrect, improper training to start with. Then you have officers out there that are seasoned officers training some of these courses, and they put their own prejudice and their own bias into the training, and that moves it even further away from the truth. So I would say the average atypical cadet that graduates from a police academy these days knows somewhere between 60 and maybe 75% of the law. So you got that 25 to 40% that they don't know. Then they get out there, and these older police officers teach them, well, this is the way we've been doing it around here. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. This is all you know. You just got this job. You're excited to have this job for whatever your. Okay. Anyway, I got sidetracked there trying to read something. Uh, so look at it like this here. When these officers they get on the street and they say, "Listen, this is the way we've been doing it here for the last 20 years or 50 years," don't mean it's right. It just means there's some longevity to wrongdoing. But this is how they were trained by their people, and then their people was trained by their people. So it just goes generation, generation, generation. So remember, the reason police used to be very, very, very different until the very, very end of the 60s, like 69 all the way through about 72, 73, is because for that part, there was no real formal training for law enforcement except a few places like Dallas Police and maybe Miami, LAPD, New York PD. They had some in-house formal training that their chief or their administration or their sheriff, whatever, thought was good or right. But they didn't become unity training where you get everybody together with the same mindset. Okay? Now, these same people want to have the maximum amount of authority, they want to have the maximum amount of juice. So they have a habit of finding laws that support what they want to do. Then they have some administrators that want the statistics to go up for grants, or they want to prove something to their local governing body that they need more money, more officers, more equipment, pay raises. So they got to change the statistics. So the way they do that is they send out memorandums to their staff that says our productivity is suffering. That's code talk for we need more arrests. Code talk for we need more citations. We got to get the numbers right to get this state or federal grant. So I've actually seen a constable's office in Texas, uh, sheriff's office and constable's office were never meant. Neither office was never meant for quote traffic enforcement. Okay, and they were never meant to be DWI checkpoints in Texas. Okay, that was for the local police and the state police. Okay, but uh, I don't want to belabor the point. But the point is, I seen one, and all of a sudden, the constable said, "Well, if we can get a certain number of DWI arrests in a certain amount of time, and it's in its own black and white on paper, we can get this state grant for this, and then we can get a federal grant on this." And so maybe this constable had 10 deputies. It was him, a chief deputy, and 10. So there's a dirty dozen. And they got, you know, one or two secretaries that take care of all their paperwork. Okay? So what happens is he says, I can get two officers under this grant, two under that. So now he has four additional people. So instead of having 12 people in his department, now he has 16. He has a bigger budget. He now has more cars, more guns, more expenses. And with that, then they can actually do some of the other work. So they're going to primarily do DWI checkpoints and DWI arrest and stalk people that they presume, and they're going to sit outside of bars and clubs and down the road from liquor stores. It's like a baited field. Okay, we were quote officially told in the police academy, don't do that. Don't sit outside of bars and clubs like it's a baited field. Don't do it. But when you get out on the streets, your seasoned officers and your sergeants and stuff said, hey, if you need to get your arrest up and you need to get some more DWIs, or you need to look better and shine and you want to get up and rank, if you sit down here from this club, this is a notorious bad place for over serving people. And I say, why don't you go down there and try and get their liquor license removed if they're doing this? Well, we don't want to interfere with their business. No, what you're telling me is you like them to do this because it guarantees you arrest. It guarantees you to get off the street because these DWIs, because there's so much paperwork on it, it's going to take half your shift. You get one arrest, half your shift. And nobody's going to bug you about tickets, yada, yada, yada. See? So if you get one arrest, it's going to take up half your shift or more. Here's another thing. If you get one late in your shift, it's going to guarantee you 2 to 3 hours of overtime. You get that maybe 2, 3 times a week, you're going to get 6 to 9 hours overtime. Now, I don't know what everybody's paying today, but it seems to be that there's a semi average around $15 an hour. Of course, there are still police departments that pay minimum wage. Yep, you heard me right. They still pay minimum wage, believe it or not. You get more money at Burger King or McDonald's or the next fast food place than you can being a cop and more benefits. But on average, I'd say it's $15 an hour on up, plus whatever retirement they may have there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the bigger your agency gets, the more influence you have in the area. The more influence you have, the more likely you are to be elected sheriff or be elected constable or a city marshal or something like that. If you lose an election, but you're still pretty popular in a certain area, then you can go get a chief of police job or a captain's job or something. So you're setting up your scenario. Now, if you're in the grocery business, it works the same way. If you're electricians, it works the same way. It's another trade. They call it a profession. Okay, but and they do a lot of professional things, but uh, they're trying to be on par with doctors and lawyers and other people that's considered, CPAs, real professionals. So they've come up from the area being a trade. When I went in, uh, I was told, that this is your chosen trade, not your profession, your trade. Uh, and that was the mentality in the late 70s. It's a trade. And all the way through the 80s, it was, but at the very, very late 80s, 88, 89, I started hearing people talking about being a profession. Then I started hearing about let's create accreditation agencies and said, we will create them in a private corporation and we'll help staff them and we'll get some of our good people jobs and they'll come by here as their accreditation agency and we'll get them recognized by the legislature through our unions, that they will recognize them as an official accreditation agency. So they'll come by and they'll say we're accredited. So then we can go back to the city council or we can go to the county commission or the state, wherever we need to go and say, hey, we just got accreditation and there's these 5 areas or 12 areas of accreditation and we got a score of 90 or better in all of them and an average score of 94. So boom, now at this point in time, we need raises for our officers. Then some people in administration started saying we're going to make our officers have to have some college background because we're going to say we got more educated officers. Well, sometimes you wind up with more educated idiots. But that's not just in law enforcement, that's in every job around the world. So I'm trying to get people to see being a cop is a job, okay? And being an electrician is a job, and being a plumber is a job, and being a car salesman is a job, and so forth and so on. So people are people in general. Now, if you got a cop over here with a badge and a gun, a lot of authority, then he sometimes his psyche changes. and sometimes not for the good and sometimes for the good. Depends on your intentions. When I got in, my daddy said, you can either complain about the system or you can get in and try and change the system. And it's only two people that complain and people that go do things. So I said I was going to be a go getter and go do. So when I would see officers do things that were, let's say, questionable in a gray area, I would try and counsel with them. I would be the voice of reasoning. I would be try and be their conscience. I would try and talk to supervisors. I would try and talk to administrators. That's why even on my very, very first full-time cop job, I went from being a brand new sworn peace officer to the acting chief of police in like 15 minutes because the chief of police was leaving. And even though he had an officer, had been an officer for 3 or 4 years, another officer for a couple of years, he had a sergeant that had been around 4 or 5 years, he trusted me more because I had actually been a part time officer there. He trusted me more than them, and him and the mayor appointed me because I was the voice of reasoning. And I double checked everything I did to make sure I was right. If I thought things were wrong, uh, then I told people I think this is wrong. Sometimes I'd go complain to city councilmen or city council women or the man or woman that was mayor. Some place I worked in had a council mayor form of government. Some had a council mayor uh, uh, city manager. I'd go talk to the city manager. I'd go talk to the mayor. Say this ain't right. That ain't right. Uh, when I worked for the county as a constable or a sheriff, I went and I talked to county commissioners. I went and talked to local judges. I talked to some judges about other judges to say, is what they're doing right? Is it legal? It just seems like it ain't right. And they'd say, well, they wasn't going to go black robe to black robe, but they sometimes would tell me, well, here's what the law says and here's what they're doing. So it's definitely in a gray area and it's definitely questionable. Don't bring my name up in it, but here's people you can talk to that can whisper in their ear they better change their way or there's going to be some judicial action brought against them. So I worked through that method. It seemed the most reasonable, uh, and I've seen judges change their behavior over time because their peers went and talked to them. Because I talked to their peers and their peers went and talked to them. I've talked to officers at my agency. I've talked to officers at other agencies that would listen to me based on my reputation, based on my reasoning, my logic, my common sense. They'd go talk to officers in their departments and they would say, hey to everybody that's come in, hey, welcome to the house. Uh, then I would talk to them. So that's how I was making change. I would go out in the neighborhood, walk around. Yep, I've always been big. When I say big, stout, I probably always have been close to 200 pounds my whole life. Uh, just genetics. I just big boned. And the doctor says it's okay, but over time I ate more than I should. And then when I had some physical injuries, I couldn't keep the weight off because I couldn't do everything I needed to with the injury, so my weight went up. And I have a thyroid problem, and I know people laugh and say, "Oh, the old thyroid problem." It's not big. It's probably only 10% of the problem. Okay, and yes, I do eat some donuts and I do eat some pies and cakes occasionally, but it's very limited because I got health issues and I just try and limit it. And I limit bread and rice and potatoes and other things. It's way easy to get it and very hard to lose it. But anyway, I digress and I'm off topic. Thank you. Anyway, the point is, I was making my change how I made my change. Now, some people here tell me, oh, well, if you didn't go arrest the judge because he violated some law, then you're an idiot and you're a scum and you're a pig. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, but that's a total lie. You don't always have to go cut off the head, metaphorically speaking, of your adversary. And you don't even have to view them as an adversary. You can look at them as a person that has a job and they're misapplying their job and they're hurting your other people. You don't have to cut off uh, their head. Sometimes you can go talk to them. Sometimes you can write to them. Sometimes you can talk to people in their circle who will go and influence them to change. When I went to Texas, my purpose was to talk to the chief. Uh, what's his name? Slavago, Slavigo, whatever. I honestly went there in good faith and in honor and in integrity to talk chief to chief. I've been in this many more years than he's been in it. I think he's got 25 years and I got 40, okay? So I got everything he's got plus 15 more, okay? So I'm like double seasoned, whatever you want to call it. The point is, I went there to talk to him, to go off the record and say, listen, here is why. Let me just tell you some things I had in my mind. I was going to say, listen, this is what the people in this area are doing. This is why they do it. Every time you do this, that, or the other, you're encouraging this behavior. Now, their behavior is lawful, but honestly, if you would let people alone, let them come to their city building, and it don't matter if they live in this city or work here, they got the same rights as anybody that lives there. That's not the way it's practiced a lot of times in like a almost like a monarchy city. It's like a royal family at the city hall, and they tell their people how to do and how to act, and people that come from quote foreign lands have no say so here. It's not right. That's not how it goes. But I plan to say, listen, if you run somebody out of here and they know that all over Texas and all over the United States that the courts have ruled over and over and over, not a small, tiny little administrative clerk that's called a municipal judge, but a real judge that has a judicial office elected by the people who have been sworn in or seasoned and are well liked and well known and well respected and hand out fair decisions and fair judgments have said repeatedly over and over public buildings are open to the people. They can come in there, they can walk around there. Yes, there are restricted areas for security of personnel. There is restricted areas for investigative purposes, but those have to be limited. They need to be recognized. But anything else that is public access, such as the bathrooms, the hallways, where you can go up to the window at the police department, where you can go up to the mayor's office, anywhere else, anywhere you can go. Okay. Now, Leon Valley is a real special interest. Just like when I went in there, they got a zoning area that talks about zoning. So I was going to go in there and ask some questions about zoning because some people had told me, well, they got some archaic zoning rules that I don't think are lawful and blah, blah, blah. So I was going there to make my own inquiry because, as far as they know, I either want to build a house there, I want to buy a business there, or I want to buy something that exists or build it there or go into partnership. And I need to know the zoning ordinances, the zoning rules, and then find out if they comply or don't. And if they do comply, good, and if they don't, are they a legal, are they authorized, are they legitimate or illegitimate? Well, I go in there, and the sergeant policeman, the short, fat guy, the guy that's like fat as me or fatter and short, looks like he may be Latino, Hispanic, I'm not sure, just my perception. He told me you can't go in there without an appointment. You have to have an appointment to talk to a bureaucrat to ask some questions. You have to have an appointment to do that? Yes, sir. I said, well, thank you for calling me sir, but I don't believe in that. I've never been nowhere in this country, and I've been all over this country, that I didn't go in any city hall, any county commission meeting, any sheriff's office, constable's office, that I couldn't, had to have an appointment. Now, if you wanted to see the chief of police or somebody like that, you want to see a specific man or woman, and they were busy, they were gone, they were in training, they were da 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 da. Yeah, you had to have a meeting. Okay, I get that. But just to ask questions about ordinances, rules, regulations, see if you have them, you don't. If you do have them, are they lawful, are they unlawful? Bum, bum, bum. You know? So the point is, excuse me, I'm saying, look, this ain't right. Then I tried to go over and talk to the city manager and explain to her. Since the chief wouldn't talk to me, and I wrote my name down, I gave him my phone number, gave it to his secretary, who quizzed me and questioned me like, I was some criminal, because I'm just trying to talk to him. And so she's sitting there trying to question all my motives. She's trying to question my agenda. So I'm a nice guy. I'm a kind guy. I answered every question she asked me. I didn't have to, but I did, because I was trying to get to the truth. I was trying to be a problem solver. I was trying to resolve a very serious issue. And I said, listen, I'm a minister of the gospel. I drove 800 miles here to talk to him. And then I'm like, why would you drive that far? I've seen people abused by the police, in my opinion, based on my 40 years of law enforcement training experience, that people would have not only been fired, they likely would have went to jail for some of the things they've done here. Definitely fired, immediate, no questions asked. Okay, it was uh, it was more force than what was justified. Okay, uh, y'all have these so-called security notice, and it says that they're security notice, and it says no use of these electronic devices. Doesn't say no possession, but you are treating it as actual physical. I got it in my hand. It says use, which means you actually got to do something. You got to turn it on and do something with it. But just the mere possession, just the mere possession, then they're treating it like you got a gun. So law enforcement is treating cameras like guns. They're saying you're suspicious if you have a camera. I don't know anybody. I mean, look at it. Every police officer I see out on the street has a smartphone. Okay, so are they suspicious because they got a smartphone, or are they suspicious because they got a camera on here or wherever videotaping? Just if they're going to treat a camera that way, well, you got at least one device here. You may have something in your car, and then you got a cell phone. Do you not? Okay, so the camera is a ruse. It's a thin veiled complaint or problem. Okay, so this is bullcrap. Now, don't think that people don't connect with other people. And just like Bayo, okay, uh, people pronounce his names different ways, but me and him had a conversation. I said, I say your name Bayo. I said, is that okay? He said, sure, 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 Chief. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, okay. So since I asked him personally if that was okay to pronounce his name that way, because that's how I pronounce it and how it seems to me, and if he says yes, well, he's the one affected. So I'm only trying to please him, man to man. I talked to him about his morals. I talked to him about his religious convictions. I talked to him about his agenda, short term, long term. I talked to him about his life, and he shared all of that with me. I was well pleased, very happy with his explanations for everything. Okay? So He and I, there's different values that we don't share exactly. Okay, because he may place a higher value on something than I do. I may place a lower value on something, and vice versa. That's his right. Okay, that's his God-given, inalienable right that is recognized. Catch the word recognized and backed up by man's law, which is the covenant constitution, because it has no expiration date on it. Okay, and they argued and argued and argued and argued back and forth until they got a consensus of the mind of all the men, the consensus of all the men there at that time as to what was right and what was proper after they came out from under tyrannical rule. And in fact, they said in due time, they knew it was very likely that power would try and beget power until it was centralized. And they were worried about that. So they tried to keep powers distributed. And they made a check and balance between the presidency, the legislature, and Supreme Court so they keep a check on each other. They got their own powers and own authorities, and they do check and balance back and forth. Okay? Then all the states have their checks and balances, and then you got the federal government and you got the state over here, and they do checks and balances. So they tried to make several checks and balances to make everything work out right. And it wasn't willy nilly. They thought about it, and they just come out this. So they said, in fact, we're going to fix this so that in 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 400 years from now, whenever, if if the government servants become tyrannical, the people have the right to change their form of government. They have the right to do away with this and bring up something completely new, or they can make amendments to this and make specific changes. Okay? So you don't just get to say, well, this ain't a good law and we ain't going to obey it. No, there's a mechanism for an amendment. There is specific wording to do away with the Constitution if the people consent and want to change it and have a different form of government. Okay? And people say, well, is Bayo really a political prisoner? Absolutely. When somebody holds a political position, especially a political slash judicial, quasi judicial, law clerk, and they're either elected or appointed by other people, and they may even be a bureaucrat of some sort, but they got contracts and they can be fired at will. They're still in a political position, elected or not, they're in a political position in the government. And if they use their clout, they use their pretended authority, authority that doesn't exist, to do a man or woman wrong and incarcerate them using that political office, and it's unjustified, then that makes that man or woman a political prisoner. And I believe under the Geneva Conventions, they're treating him like a war criminal, and they're not even giving him a wartime court martial. This goes really deep. I talk to legal scholars from across the country, constitutional professors that's all they do. I mean, they eat, breathe, and live this stuff. I talk to people like Mark Levin, who actually knows the Constitution. Okay? Now, let me stop here and correct myself. I didn't talk specifically to him, I talked to people like him. Okay? I talk to people that do talk to him personally. Okay? I talk to active, on the bench, state and federal judges. I talk to congressmen and senators of various states and of the National Congress and Senate on the House and Senate side. I talk to these people. I talk to people at the White House. I talk to a lot of people. Okay, my uh, my wife is very understanding, but she's like all wives. She has a break point, and she says, "Hey, you got to quit being on the phone 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day because I can see it's wearing you out, and it's cutting down on some family time. So you're either going to have to do audits or talk on the phone, or you're going to have to cut down one, and you got to do some tweaking here so we don't lose, those hours of family time that we could have." So I'm looking at one thing and another. So brother. I'm looking for a good balance, and I think I got it. I got one of my subscribers and an advisor who is a older man. When I say older, he's older than me, and we might be the same age. Anyway, that's right. But he's been around. He's been border to border, coast to coast, and he is a people person. And he knows a lot, a lot of celebrities. Most of them would be probably considered neutral or conservative. He probably knows a few people that's a little bit left center. But anyway, he helps advise me and helps me, and he knows lots and lots of people in the television, radio, and other entertainment industries through his last probably 40 years or more, maybe more than 40 years, but at least 40 years. And he's actually going to give me a theme song, music and words, a theme song to put on my channel. So I'll either fade in at the beginning and fade out at the end, and I don't know how to do all that, so I may have to do it on my phone and have another device over here where I play it in the background coming in and out, or whatever. Or during my show, I'll say, okay, here we go, and I'll start playing some portion that's going to be my official theme song for me that I will own, that he's given to me as a gift that him and some other people's put together. I know who all these people are, and there's some big names in entertainment. And if I mention any one of them, people say, "Oh my God, yeah, I know who that is. I've been watching them for blah 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 blah." But I'm not at liberty to say his name, and I'm not at liberty to say none of the other people's names. That's why people talk to me, because I keep my flap shut. Uh, a lot goes in, and it don't go out. And I know uh, psychologists. And in fact, one psychologist has told me specifically every single thing that he has seen this this chief Slavigo do uh, shows that he is narcissistic in his mannerisms and his patterns. Excuse me, got the itchy nose, sinuses. The other thing he has noticed is he is a sociopath based on his renderings of watching him, the things that he says, the demands that he makes, the way he orchestrates his life. Now, that's not a clinical diagnosis because he hasn't had him in his office and had all of his records and a question and answer series. So that's a general, broad based. Well, here's the thing, other people that are medical doctors and psychologists I talk to, I've asked them what they think, and they say we're going to have to concur with this doctor's assessment that he is very narcissistic, and he has delusions of grandeur. Someone said it very much appears he has delusions of grandeur where he thinks he is king of the hill. And he was trying in San Antonio to become king of the hill, that his aspiration was to be the chief of police in San Antonio. And in fact, he wanted it so bad he justified cheating on the exam. So there's no real if, ands, or buts. He cheated on the exam. He knows that I know it, you know it. The point was that he belonged to an extremely, extremely powerful union. And believe it or not, some of the attorneys and people in the unions don't want to do what they have to do because they know that some officers are dirty. But it pays their check, so they go on and try and figure out a legal strategy to represent them. And they try and enforce certain words, phrases, terminologies in uh, uh, that that make it where they hold over their head, and it forces them to bend to the point of almost breaking. Well, they use certain words and phrases and terminologies and try to dig down and go into the rabbit hole and get to the meaning of is down 7 levels. So this notes where he was able to cheat on is going to be classified as not a sticky note. It's going to be considered this instead of that. Well, this here is a bottle of water. Okay, we can say that's H2O. That's not water. It's the same thing. We can say it's liquid, but it's still water. So we can call it lots of things, but in the end, it's water. Okay, but if a contract says H2O was allowable or liquid was allowable, but water wasn't, it gets into all the little isms and schisms. It's just little ways that that these attorneys and these organizations that are paid big money find out ways to twist and turn words and phrases and stuff in contracts and contract law. You have things that are constitutional, non-constitutional, and 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 unconstitutional. Unconstitutional is a contract. So if me and another man make some contract over here and it says I get to pull on his ear in the morning, then if I go over pull on his ear and he tries to charge me with battery and calls the police and I said this man pulled my ear, well I'm going to say well I'm enforcing the contract here. It says I get to pull his ear. Oh well that did away with the criminality. So he was trying to move up to get to be the chief. And he was jockeying around and doing a lot of different things. And by the way, I talked to people that's known him for a while. He had his golden boys, his golden crew, the golden boys he took care of. But then there were certainly people he really pissed off. And they everything they've seen and everything they've heard or been involved in. So these people have little journals, and they keep these journals. And these people or their journals may be subpoenaed to court to testify against him as things they've seen in the past. And they're going to say, why didn't you report it then? Well, he had power and authority over me. He could have ended my career. He had other cops in his pocket and they could have hurt me or my family. Okay? So, you'll have to treat this as hearsay. But if they go to court and they get subpoenaed, man, fireworks. Here's something with somebody that's a sociopath and somebody that's narcissistic. You can't talk reason to them. You can't talk common sense. You cannot be a voice of reasoning. That's why when I went to the door and he said, "Oh, I know about you, Raymond." He didn't even call me Damon. That's somebody else's name. He said, "I know all about you, Raymond." Well, he really didn't know about me because he didn't even pronounce my name right. And that's a common mistake people make because he got the little sticky note I sent him, and I thought that was pretty funny that at the front desk he's got a sticky notepad there for his secretary, and they want you to write stuff on a sticky pad. Uh, you know, I sometimes want to call him Chief Sticky Pad. Because not only did he use it to cheat, he's got one up there. It's like his little trophy. I beat the system. I wrote my notes on here. I cheated and I won. Even when I cheated, I won. I'm gonna put them up here for my secretary, and I'm a sticky note man, chief sticky note. So feel free to use that if it makes you happy. I'm exercising my First Amendment. I'm exercising my religious beliefs, and I'm just trying to call it as I see it, no holds barred. Now, this is has no legal value. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. Never have been. This is my 2 cents. This is my personal, private opinion. Okay, so this is who I am. But Bayo, he he's a political prisoner, and I say free Bayo now. This this so-called judge, a glorified legal clerk, administrative administrator, uh, she's bad news, real bad news. And so she knows what happened at Leon Valley. I got a source that says, and this is logical to believe, still hearsay, but logical to believe, that the chief took it upon himself to make contact with her or cause contact to be made with her. This is a problem child, and he needs to be shut down. And probably center. Somebody said he. Let's see, how did they say it? That they believe. Now I don't know how they got the belief, but he sent a video from Biles' channel to her that she could privately view, where he was filmed at the city council meeting blowing kisses and stuff uh, to Bayo and to the people, which is very inappropriate for any law enforcement officer to be doing that, uh, especially in that context. It's kind of creepy no matter what. But, uh, and then when Bayo had him over there and he was talking to him and stuff and basically trying to break bread Bayo style, and try and get him to talk. Well, some people was doing them things, oink oink, piggy piggy, all that stuff. Well, that to me, that's just agitation, and that just ramps things up. I would have never done that, but if you do, that's your business. I think uh, that's poking the giant, and it's uncalled for provocation. You're agitating the situation. It gets really bad. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're the good guy or the bad guy, and based on your lens and based on your focus and your position as to who the good guy is and bad guy is, based on your life experience. And your common sense ain't necessarily the next guy's common sense, because your common sense is based on your life. His common sense is based on his life. So there's a lot of things that will agree on common sense. When it's raining outside, lightning thundering, we all need to come indoors, okay? That's basic common sense, not just. But anyway, the point is, uh, when he was there, and there was this agitation about licking on the ear and doing this, that, and the other. Well, if you was really even in a trade, but especially trying to consider yourself a professional and the head professional guy, you know, you're the chief of police, and this is a city function. You're in uniform. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people are watching you, and will continue to keep watching this for days, weeks, months, and years to come. Probably when you're dead and gone, and hopefully and prayerfully it'll be from natural causes. Uh, then people will still be watching what you did. So people that are related to you will be ashamed of you and embarrassed of you, if they're not already. And you can't talk your way out of it. It just so then the Slagagovo, he tells Bao, well, if something about to the effect, I don't remember the exact words, but it was to the effect that if he deep mouth kissed him, French kissed him, or whatever, that he'd be following him around like a little puppy dog. Now, here's the deal. You remember the deal with Trump, and he was on the bus and he was talking, quote, off the record, not being recorded, not filmed. He was off the record with another guy. So these are two guys talking between their self, okay? And and Trump didn't have no political office, just a businessman, and they called it locker room banter, okay? Well, put it this way: if he was talking to another officer and they was in the police locker room and it was rude or crude locker room banter between two equal officers, uh, that would be off camera. That would be private between two people, and those are things that I've heard people in the military and cops say to each other for years. I thought it was very sickening, and but some military people and some cops have a very dark sense of humor, and it's because they've had to deal with a lot of trash and a lot of death and a lot of trauma in their careers. So this is the way they build protection, a wall of protection around themselves. I've even heard them say nasty things about their wives or girlfriends. Like, one officer, one military guy say, "Man, if I had a night with your girlfriend or your wife, you'd be staying over at your house by yourself from now on. She'd be following me around like a puppy dog." I've heard these things said, but very seldom, because people knew I was a minister of the gospel. They knew that I was the voice of reasoning. They knew I didn't talk trashy like that. I didn't believe in it. I don't believe in it, but I know that men do this. I've heard women talk like this. I used to never hear women talk like this, but the country and the dynamics and the moral compass of the country as a whole has changed drastically in the last 20, 30 years. It's really gone pretty bad. I mean, really 40 years, but I'd say since about 90, 96, 97, somewhere in there, when Bill Clinton had his sexual acts with Monica Lewinsky and stained her dress and all that stuff, and he says, oral sex ain't sex. What part of oral and sex ain't sex? But he tried to twist the words around, kind of like Slavago trying to turn around. Well, this sticky note that's a cheat note really isn't a cheat note. It's just a piece of paper with some words on it. So I heard college girls, college girls over at FSU, 18, 19, 20 years old. I worked off duty sometimes over there. I'd hear them talking about going out with a new guy and boom, 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 and this oral sex. And they said, "Well, I thought you was going to save yourself for marriage." And the girl would say, "Well, oral sex really isn't sex." And sometimes they get to joking about it and say, "Well, even the president said oral sex ain't sex." So that changed a lot of young women's minds. So that just pushes STDs up and AIDS and whatever. Their moral compass is off. If you got a true north moral compass and it's over here, you got all that room, it's off. You know, I talk to young people a lot of times that's between 15 and 20, and the way they talk and their thought process is way, way, way different than mine. And I'm kind of like in the mainstream. Okay, I'm in the conservative mainstream. I'm not what you call far right. I have been most of my life center right. Let's say if you had the center here and you had 10 points this way and you was extreme on the left, Democratic left wing uh, or independent lunatics, and you're just hanging off the edge. You're as far as you can go without going in the crazy house, and maybe you need to go. And then on the opposite side, you got 10 the other way, and you got people that are so far right radical that they're for the crazy house or need to be there, they're falling off. Now you got extreme views on both ends that aren't radical. They're just really fixed in their belief system. It's their politics, their religion, and they have turned everything into politics. I went somewhere recently and I had a bottle of water, and a man and woman that was probably 20, 22 years old said, "You don't need to be drinking that." What? Why? Oh, well, there's no water purification standards for bottled water, blah 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 blah. And I said, well, I said, not that it's any of your business what I do with my body, but just to let you know, I have tested various waters. I have a TDS meter and I have some other electronic gear I can test water with. And I've tested various systems. And I've checked for the plastic residue releases, CPCs, or whatever they're called, I forget. But anyway, I've checked all this, and my water is not what you call perfect water, but it's in the 1%. I mean, the lead has, it's no fluoride. The lead has been reduced to super microscopic amounts, and contaminants and cancer causing agents have been removed. And you're going by the label on there. I use this bottle because it's a certain kind of plastic. I pour my water into this bottle. So you made a judgment that I'm drinking the wrong water based on this label, and you interjected yourself into my life. I don't know you from Adam's house cat. You don't know how I might react. If I was a psychopath, which I'm not, then I might push you down or hit you or hurt you for even talking to me. You need to be careful who you're talking to and injecting yourself into other people's business. You know, just common sense. I am the voice of reasoning. I am voice of reasoning. And I'm thinking about maybe being, maybe tweaking some things up, with the voice of reasoning. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But, I just, when I don't talk, I guess on my big long rant on my drive over and my drive back, I did all these videos and people got so keyed up. When you gonna do another live video? I mean, it ain't like I get 10 or 12 emails or a few phone calls. It's like I've had probably 50 phone calls and at least a couple hundred emails, maybe more, maybe less, but I'm going to guess around a couple hundred. Do another live video, do another live video. People are just chomping at the bit. They either want to hear some more logic, some more common sense, some reasoning. They want to hear about why the courts do what they do, why police do what they do. Look at it this way. Here's a good tip for everybody. Pretend you went to this law school for cops, to a police academy. Pretend you're 20 to 30 years old. Okay, you finished high school, you may have had some college or not, and then you've gone to this here maybe 2 to 4 month academy course. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, nights, weekends, holidays off. Maybe somebody paid you to go, maybe you had to pay your own way, but you went. Okay, now you're graduated. Now you go out, and depending on if it's a little city, they may say, here's your badge, here's your gun, you've been in the academy, you know what to do. But there's still going to be a chief or a sergeant or another officer that's going to tell you the way we do things around here is so and so. So you got that training, and you may have formal training, like some places I've been, like Leon County, deputies are required to have this phase training. And I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, but I think it's 2 months on one shift, 2 months on another shift, and 2 months on another shift. And I'm trying to remember if you have three different trainers or it's the same trainer that changes shifts with you. Anyway, that's irrelevant, but you like 6 months in a patrol car with somebody watching over you to make sure you write the right reports, you don't make unlawful detentions, you don't make illegal arrests, that you know what the state law is, federal law is, and you know what the policies are. And the policies are basically how you apply the law. That's what they're supposed to be. So the law may say make an arrest. Well, the policy says if you handcuff them in the front or you handcuff them in the back. It doesn't say make the arrest or don't make the arrest. Only the law can say that. So a policy may say arrest, put hands in front or in back. It may say to get everything out of their pockets at that time, or that you do the pockets at the jail. Policies, whatever. So they learned this, okay? But put yourself in this position. So whether you had all this training or you just hit the road, and if you're like Leon County and it's 6 months later, then you get out on patrol by yourself. You still have somebody you answer to directly for everything you do for the next 6 months. So you spend a whole year, 6 months of it, half of it in hardcore training. Another 6 months where you're in phone call, radio contact with people, see what you're doing right. Okay, or you can be in some little small agency and you got to figure it out on your own, doing your own. Now, say you're doing this. You've watched videos, you've watched the news, you see things that happen. Now somebody comes up to you out of nowhere. You may be on this so called traffic stop, or you're interacting with somebody about something, and whoever comes up with the camera doesn't know specifically what you're doing. And you, as the cop, you say, they don't know what I'm doing. They think they know what I'm doing, but they don't know. And there may be a caveat to this traffic stop. They may be a known house burglar. They may be a known pedophile. They may be this, that, or the other. And there is a use extreme caution, and they've been known to have weapons. So the auditor is over here filming this thing. Now they are lawful, but the officer gets nervous and uneasy because he knows that there might go to hardcore violence, as in shots being fired, and whoever stand over there might get shot. So yeah, he's in a legal place, and yeah, he has his camera, and yeah, he's doing what he legally can, but that don't stop the officer from having a little anxiety. Why are they there? Do they maybe know Butch that's in this car? And Cheryl, do they know these two people? And they're one of their friends, and maybe are they going to jump on me? So a lot of things running through the cop's mind, okay? So you don't want to set him off, okay? If he's who are you, what are you doing? Uh, you can remain silent, but I'd say I'm a journalist gathering content for a story. I'm going to stay a safe distance over here, and I'm going to video this for the record, okay? Now that don't mean that you don't have a gun, and don't mean you ain't gonna try and shoot him in the back. As far as he's concerned, he don't know. He don't know you from nothing. You don't have on no credentials that say who you are. You don't have a crew of 2 or 3 people, and you don't look like a local TV station or newspaper reporters that they're aware of. So they're cautious. They're curious. Now, some of them, they're trained not to do this, but they still act out. Just like over in Ennis, Texas, with Patrick. Uh, they really acted out with him, and they really violated him. Okay, so they knew who he was because they had radio traffic going back and forth, and that's the guy from Oklahoma. So they knew who he was. They knew they were in no danger. So they was going to make an example out of him and swat him like a fly in their mind. But that's criminal action, civil action, criminal action. Okay, so uh, they're going to have to deal with Patrick in either a settlement or go to court or whatever, however it works out. Uh, that's not going away. That's not going away by a long shot. Uh, and the system is in that Cheryl Harding, corrupt judge. She's going to. Oh, my PayPal link. That's paypal.me /Damon Jones with a capital D and a capital J. PayPal.me /Damon Jones with a capital D and capital J. Or they can go, let's see, my eyes are bad. Let me see. Yeah, but it's got a capital D and a capital J. The D was small there. I could make that much out. The other, the yeah, amazing would be the yeah. You you could if you wanted to, if you live close by and you wanted to go by and hand deliver some sticky notes as a donation to the police department for the chief to have, or you wanted to order from a printing company some sticky notes and send them over there uh, so that he don't run out. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not even encouraging you to do it. But somebody else brought it up. I never even thought of that. Somebody brought it up. So yeah, you can. People make donations to police departments all the time. I had a guy one time come up and say, "How are y'all doing on ammo?" This guy was a firearms dealer. He said, "How y'all doing ammo?" I said, "Well, we got a small budget, but I said we got a small department, so we're basically okay." He said, "Well," he said, "Do y'all got 9 millimeters?" I said, "Well, some of my guys do. Some of my guys do. I actually carried a 357 Magnum to right to close to the end of my career, and I was made at Leon County Sheriff's Office. I was made. They said you can carry your 357, but it's going to have to be your off-duty weapon. You got to get this H&K 45, and you're going to have to transition." And they wasn't going to let me carry nothing until I transitioned and qualified with their weapon. So yeah. So they sent me over, and I qualified with H&K 45, and so I carried that and my 357 Magnum. Why? I that 357 Magnum, I'm a dead-eye dick. That's what they used to call us. Somebody probably make a joke out of that. But anyway, uh, I was top gun in my academy, and I got a certificate, for Top Gun. Of course, people used to say back in the day, if you're a cop, you don't never want to get a Top Gun award. Never, 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 never get that. Why? Liability is through the roof. What do you mean? Well, say if somebody is shooting at you, and even self defense, and you're shooting back, you're on duty, and they burglarize somebody, rape somebody, and it's a shootout, and you got 50 witnesses, and they're like, "Go, chief, go," and and you shoot this guy, and he dies because it's a center mass shot, and he blew up his heart or punctured his lungs, and he died, whatever. The family's going to sue you for wrongful death, and they're going to subpoena your records and say, "Listen, you was Top Gun over here, and you was a competitive shooter." So they're going to allege you could have shot him in the hand or the arm or the leg or anywhere else you wanted to, and that's not true. But they'll allege that, and the jury will say, "Yeah, if he's been a cop all these years and he's a Top Gun, wow, yeah, he could have winged him." That's not true, because psychologically, you're trained for center mass. Okay, whether you're shooting from the hip, you're shooting this away, this away, this away, or a modified weaver, or a full weaver, or what, or you're taught this straight out deal. Over the years, these things shoot. You're taught different shooting positions. I'd say between every maybe 5 to 10 years, they come away with a modification. Well, we're going to do it this way now. But I guarantee you, if some agency put me on the road tomorrow, and I've actually had 2 offers in Alabama, but I said no. One of them was to be a chief of police, but I said no. I don't want to do it. And they said, "Well, we understand, blah, 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 and we'll make accommodations for this, that, and the other." And I said, "Not right now. I don't want to." Thank you very much. And I told the mayor and a couple council people, I said, "I will help you pick a chief. I will be a silent advisor to you, and whoever you pick to be chief, you can call me about things." And they got to seeing and knowing me on here on YouTube, and they said, "You are the most sensible, reasonable man on both sides. You're an auditor, and you know what you can do and can't do, and you're kind of passive about it, but you're determined. but you also tell auditors, hey, don't do this and don't do that. So you can go up to the envelope and you can tickle the envelope, but don't cross the line. If you're a cop, you can get over here and you can tell them, hey, you're making me nervous. Okay, that's the truth. You're making me nervous. Uh, and then cops are taught things like, do me a favor. And then auditors want to jump back and say, I ain't doing you no dang favors. I understand both sides. Uh, and I'm one of them guys that's kind of in the middle. Part of my brain thinks like a cop, and why do cops do what they do? What's normal and what's logical and what's not? And then I think like a citizen and a journalist on the other. And then above it all, I'm trying to think as a man of God, a minister, what's the right thing to do? What's fair? What's logical? What's sensible? So if I tell somebody to do a favor, they ain't doing you a favor, I say, well, what, you ain't got to talk. You remain silent. Or you can talk. You can stay or you can go. You're free to stay. You're free to go. But I'm telling you, you make me nervous. And I tell you, I'm doing something. We don't have to be, as cops, we don't have to be secret squirrel and say, I can't tell them nothing. It's all secret. I am on a felony traffic stop. This is a serious traffic stop. I can't watch you and watch them both, and you're making me nervous. And you're liable to cause me to make a mistake, and it might cause me to hurt somebody or for me to get hurt. Please, please, I am requesting you to step back another 10 feet. Give me just a little more space where I can pay attention and not get hurt or hurt nobody. Uh, and maybe the auditor will say, cool. Most of the auditors I know that they've been asked to step back a little distance, they complied. They've done it. Even if they didn't say nothing, they actually stepped back. Now there is occasion when they felt like they was more than enough distance away, and they said, "I'm good where I'm at," and they stood their ground. So nobody said being a cop was easy. Never has been. Ain't gonna go. Says go to sleep, man. Yeah, I do. I gotta go to sleep. I just love y'all, and uh, I just love y'all. I love y'all, love y'all, love y'all. I had a tough time being a cop. I'm having a tough time being a minister. I've had a tough time being a journalist. I don't think there's really any easy jobs out there. Uh, Now they always said if you did what you loved, you'd never work a day in your life. Thanks, Bill. Uh, Thank Dick and Roscoe. Uh, hey, I uh, I just I don't know. I just feel like the more I can educate you as the public, and the more I can educate cops, you just have no idea how many cops watch my channel. There's cops I haven't talked to in 10 or 20 years, and they said, hey, I heard from Frank or Buddy or Susie or whoever that you had a channel out there. And I come over to check you out. Wow. You know, some of them said, you're the same old guy you've always been. Some of them said, hey, it seems like you've changed a little bit. You know, I'd say 80% said I'm exactly the same. Some of them know me my whole career, and they said, you ain't changed a nickel. You're just more determined than ever. And you've always loved to help people. You've always loved to educate people. You're doing a good job. I said, well, I have changed in the way I've learned the state constitution far better than probably 90% of the police ever will know it. I've studied the national constitution, know it far better. I understand the principles, the morals, the ethics, so forth and so on. And my wife, not me, but my wife, has a personal matter to take care of on the 20th, the day before, and it's in the early afternoon, and she won't be through with her uh, personal matter she has to take care of till about 3 in the afternoon, and I have to be with her, or it's not absolute, but it's really really needful. So I'm going to say this: I'm going to be with her. Now, here's the thing. My wife said when we get through whether I want to go to Texas and drive all night like I did before, and if I left here at 3 in the afternoon, I get there at 3 in the morning. It'd be about like last time. And I'd have, a few hours to decompress and do stuff. And she might even go with me. So here's how we're doing it. We've decided that the chief down there has basically made threats, and some of them aren't so veiled, and some are more veiled. And I take his threats serious because he's being narcissistic, and uh, he has delusions of grandeur, and he's uh, a sociopath, according to at least one psychologist that's really studied him a lot by many people asking. So there's a good chance he could make bogus charges on me and arrest me. He may try and he may even have a bogus warrant already wrote up for me. I don't know none of this. I go where God tells me to go. I do what God tells me to do, and then that's just the way it is. So if you want me to go, if there's enough money in my PayPal account to pay for us to go, me to go, or us to go, then I'll be there. I'll drive all night just like I did last time. And I'll have an all night talk show just like I did last time for hours and hours. I'll do one, stop it, and start another one all the way across so y'all know what's up. If there ain't enough money, then I ain't going because I can't afford it. I don't have no police retirement, no police pension. And people said, "How can you do that?" Well, some cities didn't have them. Some cities had their own private one. You had to be there for 10 years at that specific agency to get it. Uh, like one agency, I got like I don't know. It's so long ago. I hate to say, but it was either 5 or 10,000 after the deductions. For like the 7 years I had been there, it basically was like 1,000 or 1,300 per year. So anyway, if the money is there, I'll go. If it ain't, I won't. That's how I'm going to look at it. So if God moves on the people and they make the donations, boom. Oh, I got one really important question because it's very important. I keep my word, and I try and keep other people's words if it has anything to do with me. So here we go. The man that had the handkerchief off the top of his head and the bottom, uh, probably about 5 foot tall or so, a slender man. I think he's Hispanic or Latino. And he told me his name was Dave, and somebody else, so that's Dave, just Dave. Then somebody else said, uh, yeah, in the foyer there. And somebody told me his name was Faceless Dave, but he makes the T-shirts. I didn't know him. I'd never met him before. I've seen him on some videos, but I've never met him, never had a conversation. And he said anybody that gives $31 uh, or more to Chief, the first 10 people that give $31 or more in that super chat, I'm going to send them a T-shirt. Well, I've got my list of people. I got my list of people, and I've tried to get a message to him on YouTube. I don't know if I did it right or I did it wrong. I don't know. I don't know an email address for him. I don't got a phone number for him. I got no way to tell him who those 10 people are. I've talked to Buck G. I've talked to News Now Houston David. I've talked to Patrick. I've talked to Ben over at Dick and Roscoe show. Uh, I've talked to several auditors and people behind the scenes, and nobody knows his email, phone number, nothing. So if somebody can contact him and have him send me an email at damon4040@yahoo.com, damon4040@yahoo.com, tell him to send me his email, a phone number, something where I can give him the names of these people, and uh, and once I do that, then he can contact the people by email and find out their address, so that he can send them what he promised to send them. Uh, I'm willing to get their addresses, give them their names and addresses and stuff. Uh, whatever I need to do, I do it because that's what he promised. I didn't promise it. I didn't promise it. He did. Okay, but it was on my channel, and they were supposed to have a choice of two different shirts. And I heard somebody in there, and y'all can go back and look at the video, but I heard somebody in there say, "Oh yeah, he makes good shirts." So somebody was aware of his work, and they could have a choice of having a choice of one of two shirts. I don't even know what the two shirts are. I don't know what the choice is, but I do everything I promise to do. If I tell you I can't do it, I try and tell you why I can't. If I can, I tell you I can, and I tell you any caveats to it or whatever. I just ain't gonna lie. I ain't been lying. I ain't lying now. And ain't gonna lie. I may give you my opinion and you don't like it. Uh, I may tell you something's a fact and you say, "Well, that's not what I've been told." Just like cops used to tell people for years and years and years and years, "Hey, if you got to shoot somebody on your front porch, drag them into the living room." I ain't never told nobody that. And in fact, I said, "Look, let's just say you had self-defense or the castle doctrine and you were protecting your home. Okay, let's just say that. Even if you're acquitted of that, you're going to be charged with tampering with a dead body, with a corpse, and tampering with evidence. So you may have two misdemeanors or a misdemeanor and a felony put on you. So the original thing is gone, but now you got something else to deal with. Just tell it straight, and if you want to, be quiet and get an attorney. The police get there and say what happened. Say, "Hey, I ain't got nothing to say except I got to get a hold of my attorney or you provide me one." And then they tell their attorney, and their attorney becomes their hired gun and their mouthpiece. It's up to you, what you do. I can only tell you my thoughts and my impressions and my experience. People that's had to defend themselves, I haven't never put nobody in jail for defending themselves, and I ain't split hairs over if somebody was defending their self-defense. And that's another reason I belong to selfdefensefund.com, and that's why if you put promo code CHIEF in there, promo code CHIEF, then they'll give me credit, which will help me buy some gas or them sponsor my show or whatever. And so I don't know for positive, but I think I'm around 30 or 40 people now that signed up because of me, and I am very, 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 very thankful to them people. And I want to give a shout out to Bama Carey. Bama Carey. They are really, really level headed people. They're kind of like OCT is in Texas, Open Carry Texas, which I'm a member of, and I'm getting my paperwork into Bama Carey to be a member of them. You know, uh, yeah, thanks. Yes, thanks, Bill. Uh, anyway, I belong to about probably 5 different gun rights groups, gun advocates for the Second Amendment, because no matter what you say, no matter what you do, without the Second Amendment, you have no amendments. Every government, every government, every government that has taken the guns from the people by force or voluntary, bam, they become subjects, hardcore subjects, and they were very badly mistreated, very badly. Okay, and the founding fathers knew you needed it to hunt for food. You could use it for sporting, but most importantly, it's for the self-defense of you and your home and the self-defense of your country. C.J. Grisham, yes, I talked to him the other day. He is one righteous dude. Uh, He did an interview on government counterintelligence on News Now Houston yesterday. In fact, I called and I talked to David right as he was wrapping up, or basically he was wrapped up, but he was having to do his upload. Uh, they're great guys, and what C.J. Grissom talked about intelligence, counterintelligence, and all that stuff. I know I was a part of a domestic security task force for about 5 years, and I learned on a lot of things because we worked with the military, Texas Sheepdog. Yes, Texas Sheepdog. Yep, he's a good dude. I've talked a lot to him, and he's had a lot of the same training I've had. So we understand where misconceptions and mistraining and all that comes in, and so we've locked in on that. But they're because he's local, and because he has a very hard knowledge base of what they're doing, not doing, he knows what he can do and can't do. He has a target the size of Texas on his back, so he's pretty rough. Now, C.J. Grisham, he knows a lot, and he knows a lot of people. So does Jack. But uh, because of C.J.'s vast knowledge, and he's attorney protected, and he's very knowledgeable and skilled, they aren't targeting him like they are Jack. Because one, he's another part of Texas, and San Antonio is getting very hard in that area and surrounding areas on auditors. And they got some little clicks in there. Anyway, oh, sorry about that, y'all. If if y'all give to my PayPal account and the money's there, I'll be at Leon Valley. Period. Uh, or me and my wife and son, but I will be there if the money's there. If that's not, then that'll be my sign from God. Don't go, Chief. Don't go, son. Don't go. Your daddy God's talking to you. Don't go. So this is not begging, and I really hate it when people say begging. Giving people an opportunity and telling them a need is totally different than saying, here, give me. I'm not, this ain't for me. Out of every dollar that was ever gave to me on PayPal, it's going in my gas tank, it's going in my stomach, my personal tank to feed me, it's going for a place to lay my head down on, it's going to pay for an Uber ride to get somewhere to do something. So maybe my car didn't get stolen. Uh, it bought a meal for another auditor that was low on funds. I bought them a meal or something, but it's all for the cause. I didn't go out and buy me a new computer, which even if I did, that'd have been for the cause too because I have to have things, electronic gear. But I even done that. Okay, I've used the money for the really hardcore nuts and bolts operation to do what is my ministry. This is my ministry. I'm ministering to auditors. Y'all don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and you don't know how I counsel with auditors in my ministerial capacity. You don't know the police officers that call me on the phone or talk to me on the street, and I counsel with them. Okay? I'm trying to broker peace, understanding, compassion, and common ground, and be the voice of reason on both sides. And that's what I try to talk to the chief about, and he says, you're silly. No, he was the one that was silly because I can almost guarantee you, as I live and breathe, that if he had have said, okay, chief, me and you's going to go in and have an off the record conversation, I can just about guarantee that every auditor out there would have clapped, hollered, yelled, been so excited, and would have been videotaping, me going back there. And whether it's 20 minutes or 2 hours later, I could have come out and said, listen, if he would listen and we could work, I say, he's agreed that him, the city manager, maybe the mayor, and the magistrate we would all sit down and talk about, you know, what the actual law for Texas says and what the Supreme Court for Texas has said, what the federal Supreme Court said about where you can film and where you can be, where you can't be, and how the judge could take care of reasonable, logical, sensible security and not violate nobody's rights. So the judge and the mayor and everybody in the police department gets what they want, and then they don't have to have uh, 7 or 8 or 9 officers sitting around 8 to 5 Monday through Friday doing over the top security. Okay, that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars a day and thousands and thousands, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year that they pay for needless security over the top. Okay, and that alienates people. People that had come in with red light camera tickets, they, well, anyway, I'm digressing, so don't let me belabor that. But I could have come back with a brokered peace treaty. Do you know if that had happened? I don't know how they would have dealt with the Texas Wolfman issue. The other guy was with him, and with Mexican Padilla. I don't know how they would have dealt with all those. Okay, I don't. But I can guarantee this: if he had a listened to me, had a talked to me, the auditors trust me. The people out there trust me, and I could have come out and say, "Hey, we're working on a deal. It's it's not going to change overnight, but we got some immediate concessions, some immediate reasonability, and we're going to have a proper grievance, and we're going to have transparency, and they're going to let us speak at city council meetings, but we're going to mind our manners. We can, and there's not going to be no retaliation on nobody on either side, and nobody's retaliated on the auditor's side. And I can't think of what this is called, but this a doctor friend of mine pointed out. He said there's some kind of syndrome, but it's basically if I hit you, then I tell everybody else you hit me. So whatever I'm going to claim you do to me, I've actually done it to you, and you didn't do it to me, but I did it to you. Well, that's what the chief did. He said auditors were retaliating against him, other officers, and their families. If you cut it down in the nutshell, he's saying y'all retaliated against me. Nobody retaliated against him. He retaliated against them. So he called the crime on them for what he was doing. You know, there's a word for it. You accuse other people of what you're actually doing. See, I forget what it is, but anyway, y'all decide. Uh, what does that mean, pig roast? What is that? I'm not sure. Hey, Rod G, my new homie. Hey, that that old Rod G knows some things. He certainly does know some things for real, and he knows a pig is a pig. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's a lie, and I'm calling you out on it. Uh, Amen, Rod G. Yep, Rod G's a smart man, and he knows some of the things that's going on in Tarrant County Jail too. Yeah, he knows, and he's being a big help. Well, thank y'all, and God bless you, and have a super great Jesus day. May the Lord bless y'all all in a mighty rich way. And for the people that are the naysayers and the evil people, may God prick your heart and your mind and convict you. In the name and blood of Jesus Christ, I am Brother Damon, Damon Chief Jones, your friend, your good buddy. Uh, I'm here. Thank you. Everybody say bye now. Shalom. Sayonara. Good night. Bye bye. Okay, I'm fixing to exit.